All right, today I'm really excited to have this conversation. We're going to be talking about divine partnerships, and I've got two dear friends in the house, Joy Kingsborough and Matt Kahn, sharing their experience, and we're going to go down a lot of different rabbit holes, so you have to stay till the end because there's something special I want to share with you at the end. So welcome, Joy and Matt.
Thanks for having us. It's an honor to be here.
It's great to see you.
So, okay, what the heck is a divine partnership? I'm going to lay it on you guys.
Okay, well, a divine partnership, from our perspective, is a connection in which you obviously have a level of attraction to the other person, but you have a connection that occurs not only on the level of mind, but on the level of heart and on the level of soul. And so when Joy and I met, and we were both in a position in our life where, neither one of us were looking for a partnership. In my life, I was pretty exhausted from that experience. And when we met, it was this unexpected connection. When we literally came together, it was like these levels of connection, instead of experiencing them in a certain order, I experienced a connection with Joy that clicked on every level simultaneously. And, when you have experiences in your life of, I'm attracted on this level and let's give it time to see if it develops. When Joy and I met, from my perspective, it was an instant connection on every level. And it was literally from the moment that we met and had this connection and the clicking into place of everything simultaneously that I actually was educated in exactly what a divine partnership is.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm going to ask Joy this question. So let's differentiate between, like, when we think of the word attraction, we think of physical attraction, we think of emotional attraction, and you also just mentioned spiritual attraction. So you said that the two of you were you were running on all three of those cylinders, right? So what's the difference? Because that can be confusing to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that in every relationship where it's been confusing, it hasn't been divine partnership. And that's why it was confusing. Because the instant that we met, I was standing at this event with Matt. We were there for work and we came together, and there was this connection where it fired in my mind. It was in my heart. It was in my body. Literally the room fell away. And so for me, knowing the difference was how I felt in congruence in myself. I felt like I was in coherence, my mind, my heart, everything clicked into place with, I need to spend all of my time with this person. This person is so important. So for me, it was a deep knowing instantly.
And if I could add
go ahead.
And as a compliment to Joy and our connection, when we met, I instantly felt the highest qualities of myself step forward, which is different sometimes when you meet someone you're physically attracted to, and it can also stir some insecurity. It can stir up some fear. It can stir up some different qualities of ourself. And so in a lot of ways, there's a great benchmark of when you're in a divine partnership. Is the person you're with bringing out of you the highest qualities, or are you able to bring your highest qualities out in the presence of a divine partnership? And so when Joy and I met, and I felt literally the highest qualities of all aspects of myself move forward the moment we met, it was a confirmation of how I knew that this connection was something deeper and bigger than any attraction, but was actually a part of a divine partnership that was created truly by divine appointment.
Yeah, so easy. It was so easy.
Well, you say it's easy, but a lot of people feel this is elusive. And yeah. I want to just piggyback on something you just said, Matt, because I really resonate with this. I have, at least I know in my own experiences and certainly listening to my clients, I could meet someone, and it doesn't necessarily bring out my highest quality. It can bring out my lower chakra, if you will. my physical libido can come out, and honestly, in that moment, I think it's a divine partnership in that moment. I'm not really being ruled by my highest qualities. So Okay, so a lot of people listening to this might think, well, this sounds like twin flame stuff. And we both watched the episode, or the three of us, excuse me, watched that episode on twin flames on Netflix or Amazon. I don't recall where it was. What's the difference between, say, a divine partnership, a soul mate kind of relationship, or a twin flame? If you're able to go down this rabbit hole, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Of course. You want to take that on in?
Oh my gosh, I think we have to take it together.
Let's do it.
So, I think we start with the twin flame energy. We're talking about a relationship that, at least in my experience, is very, very connected to growth that needs to occur individually, and you come together with someone to hopefully stir that growth. But you're connected to someone primarily, I think, from a deep attraction perspective. I think the attraction is intense, and maybe you feel this spiritual connection. But I find that it's rarely both people feeling it equally. There's usually one person that feels it a little bit more intently than the other person, and there's sort of this chasing and this intensity to it. But the intensity feels uncomfortable, unstable. I don't know what you would add to that from a twin flame perspective, but
yeah, I think that over the years, when I've come to know this term and worked with so many people that were talking about twin flame partnerships, the definition that they would say was that I'm looking for the other half of my soul, as if a twin flame means that one soul exists in two different bodies, which could have a level of romance to that idea, but it also takes on a very codependent type energy, because typically when people get into the twin flame scenario, there is one person who is convinced the other person must be their twin flame. The other person may not have that experience or is being blamed for being avoidant. And so then the person who thinks that they're chasing their twin flame is, in a sense, they think they're pursuing and trying to convince someone that could, sometimes we see in the documentary, borderline on stalking. And which, as we know, would not be a tenet of divine partnership. So and I've done a video on twin flames many years ago. And so in the twin flame idea, twin flame means one soul in two different bodies, which I see as a misunderstanding. And I can explain why. They also think soulmate is who you meet to prepare you for the twin flame. What I actually see is the reverse, that a twin flame being heat, twin being two people that come together to mirror back karmic patterns to prepare each other for a relationship that is more than likely going to happen with a future partner that's not the person they're working their stuff out with. So when you're in a twin flame energy, it can sometimes start very physically hot, very romantic, very tumultuous. And what happens is that the egoic attraction that might make it physically romantic or very exciting equally makes it that tumultuous on a inter-pattern level. I don't think that's even a word. And an inter-pattern level, but really, so there's people that have these connections that are super hot in the beginning, and then they trigger each other in their patterns because they're actually helping to prepare each other for what they think is their partnership, but it's actually preparing for a different partnership later down the line. What I believe that Joy and I have is a soulmate connection, which is not one soul in two different bodies, which I don't even think exists. I think it's a misunderstanding. When we met, our energy fields, I have an energy field, she has an energy field, and we literally in a split second felt the creation of a mutual energy field, kind of like a Venn diagram where we were two whole beings, and then a new midpoint was created. And it was an entire different energy that my divine masculine, her divine feminine created together. And when that click happened, I instantly realized that's what the twin flame people misunderstand. They think that, oh, you two have one soul in two different bodies. And of course, what it really is just misunderstanding a reflection of unity consciousness and often projecting romance onto that. And so I think there's a lot of misunderstandings that we are in our living experience excited to clarify for so many people.
So, okay. It's interesting because I genuinely believe that we have soulmates. I believe in past lives. Some of my audience doesn't, or and I do believe in every significant relationship I've had. We have had a connection that goes beyond the surface, kind of transactional. Now, to some people listening to this is just going to sound like a lot of woo-woo, like this idea of divine partnership. It's woo-woo, like it doesn't exist. It's all airy-fairy. Yet at the same time, I've observed most humans in today's realm operate in what I call transactional relationships. And I think the real core of this conversation is differentiating between a transactional relationship and a divine partnership. Would you two be open to kind of giving your perspectives on the differences between those?
Absolutely. You want to go for that?
Yeah, I think, I would call it the same thing. When we talk about transactional relationship, there's sort of this compromise or agreement. So if you take care of this in our relationship and you take care of that, there's sort of this bargaining that happens. And I think that for me, one of the things that I knew going into relationship, if I was going to be in a relationship again, I didn't know before I met Matt. And I knew that I wasn't going to compromise. And what I meant by that is not that I wasn't going to be agreeable or connect with someone or cooperate. I wasn't going to have to, that I knew that I could be all of me and bring all of me to that experience, and that me being all of me would light my partner up. And the same would happen for my partner, that by bringing all of him to the relationship, there's nothing he would need to compromise about who he is, what he loves, what his passions are. And that's exactly what we found is when we're in this divine partnership, that all of who he is not only welcome, it's celebrated. And all of who I am isn't just welcome, it's celebrated. So there's no transaction. I don't need him to do anything for me in order to feel like my needs are met. I can meet my own needs. I just love to expand and grow with my partner. Right? So it becomes a benefit, an added space.
And even to add on to that, I love what you just said, honey. To add on to that, I think transactional relationships are when we are physically attracted without an equal desire to grow with the person. Because when we grow with someone, that means we're not always going to have our needs met in every single moment if we have those types of expectations. So what I like to say when we think of divine partnership is that attraction is not a less than quality. It's a part of the equation for sure. But in addition to who you desire on a physical level, also who do you desire growing with? And so when there is an equal attraction and an equal desire to grow with someone, and who they are as a natural person doesn't, like, for example, I'm not attracted to Joy because only when she says and does certain things. I'm not attracted to Joy because she only does certain things on a regular basis, and vice versa. I'm attracted to Joy every single day in every moment because we are equally attracted to each other on every level, and we also share an equal desire to grow with each other, to face difficulty. And because we're so connected, what people will discover, instead of assuming this is like an airy-fairy thing, which you said, which I love, I think what this really is the possibility of having a connection that is equally attractive and sustainable. And that it's possible to find someone that you are attracted to and who you equally desire growing with. And that it doesn't have to be a negotiation. It doesn't have to be a bartering between two ego structures. It actually can be your soul and the soul of another meeting as one. Doesn't mean there's one soul in two bodies. It means there's two souls experiencing the beauty and the reality of unity consciousness.
So, okay. So, do you have something, Joy?
No.
Oh, okay. So something occurs to me that I really want to dive into is the in our current kind of dating environment, traditional environment, if you will, there's this kind of dance where there's this, for lack of a better term, push and pull. In other words, don't call someone to create tension, or don't act too eager, or don't make investment. There's all this kind of push-pull kind of dynamic. And you said something earlier that made me kind of see a difference between divine partnership is it's almost as if when the two of you met, you both went, for lack of a better word, all in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean you shared bank accounts and put each other on your lease sort of thing, because I think that might be a little bit impetuous, or impulsive to go that extreme. But there was this level of all in. Would you mind sharing in the beginning, like the first time you met, the first date, the first time you were more physically intimate, talk about this all in experience, if that's okay.
Mm.
Well, when we had met at the event we were both speaking at, yeah. I was in a time in my life where I was really exhausted. I really wasn't looking for any kind of relationship whatsoever. I was very settled in being alone, and I, would say to myself and to the universe, if it wasn't the kind of connection I've always dreamed of, I'm really not interested. And so I went to this event with zero expectation, with it, almost in my mind the opposite of laughing at the idea of even meeting someone.
Okay.
And so when I met Joy, when we met, and she was also in a place, I found out of like, hey, unless it's like a serious connection, I'm not interested. Here's what I can say the difference is.
Okay.
There's a difference when you meet someone and you think you are choosing to be all in, which I believe is still a part of a negotiation, right? I've vetted you, I've deemed you worthy, and I've decided I am going to be all in with you. Now, Jonathan, I'll tell you what happened to me. I don't know that I decided to be all in. I think all in decided to be me, to be honest. I think our relationship informed both of us. By the way, you two are together. You came here to do business. You swore off relationships almost for the rest of your life. And by the way, this is the woman you're going to marry, and you're now both in a committed relationship. And so it was the simultaneous recognition of, oh my God, I'm so attracted to you. I want to know you. And I feel so connected and comfortable with you. Right. Yeah. And the comfort and the connection and the attraction was eye-opening. And by the way, just so you know, you two are together, so enjoy getting to know each other. So what I can say is interesting about a soul connection is that it's one thing to choose to be all in. It's another thing when, on a mysterious level, all in chooses you in the presence of your beloved. And that's actually what happened for me. And I think that's probably similar to what your experience was.
Yeah, and I think I'll share, because I think people listening in, it's important to understand that we had this feeling and we knew, but it also scared us.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about that, because for us, there's still the communication to be all in, to recognize, okay, this connection is the real deal. We had to have a conversation about it. And so in the very beginning, it happened very fast. And we made the commitment to each other. We're going to be scared and we're going to do it together. So instead of us not telling each other that, or, like you said, not knowing, should I call, should I not call? We just said, hey, I just want to talk to you again. I want to spend the entire event with you. We just shared how we were feeling and had sort of this comfort in knowing that it was okay. He was my best friend instantly. Yeah. So I wanted to share with him how I was feeling.
And, just to add to that, when we had this discussion, because here I am meeting this woman who is, captivating my senses. And I had just told myself, there's no way I'm going to meet anyone. And then 2 minutes later, this is the woman I think I'm supposed to be with. So I think I'm utterly insane in my own mind. And when we start having this conversation, one of the most beautiful things that happened in the beginning is we start talking about our fears, because we had both become so comfortable and successful in our own lives. And we had decided, well, let's be scared together.
Yeah.
And so instead of the difficult experience being something that we pulled away to deal with privately or separately, we actually made it part of the building block of getting to know each other. So we allowed ourselves to be scared together, which I think was one of the first important moments of this all in that you're speaking of.
Well, okay. So I'm really now fascinated with this. And that, okay. So I want to get even more granular on let's be scared together. Like,
Yeah.
what was that conversation? Like, I mean, because I can't imagine me ever saying to someone I just met, okay, let's just be scared together. Like, I don't even know what that means to some degree. So can you really elaborate on this? Because I know there's something deeper and richer to those words of let's be scared together.
Yeah. Well, when from my heart, when I said it, it was, hey, I'm feeling an incredible amount of feelings. And I have also healed from a tremendous amount of hurt in my heart.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, as much as I'm feeling this connection, there's a very afraid part of me that's not sure he wants to go there again, can go there again, or has the bandwidth to go there again. And it wasn't like I was afraid of being hurt or having hurt experiences again. It was, do I literally have the bandwidth to love? For me, the most important thing was, based on the healing that I had been healing in my heart for a few years, because to experience an attraction with someone is a beautiful thing. But from my perspective, love is a responsibility. So it's not just, do I want to have these impulsive experiences with joy? Do I literally have it in my heart to care for this connection and relationship like I would, as we would care for a beloved? That's how I believe the responsible thing about intimacy is. If I'm considering being intimate with this woman, I am also saying yes to caring for the totality of her, not decompartmentalizing it into just some, impulsive physical experience. So when we were talking, my point of view was, I am feeling such a connection, and I am so tired, and I am not sure I have the bandwidth. And at the same time, I could acknowledge that my bandwidth was from experiences that were different from what we had. So it was, my human part was tired and just starting to feel good from the healing I had done for a few years in a very intense way. Starting to feel great, got my confidence back. At the same time, none of those experiences of my past had anything to do with she and I, but we have to have this very honest conversation on every level. So for me, being scared together was being willing to go there
and having the deeper conversations.
Yeah. And how about for you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that's where the growth begins, right? So that desire to grow, we both there were things coming up inside of us because we had healed other relationships that we didn't realize there were aspects that needed to grow, which were aspects of ourselves that could have it all. Our careers, we both had, we're already successful when we met each other, and we're already experiencing a life we loved. So to come into that really personal experience and devote ourselves to relationship, the responsibility of love. I love how you said that, because this, I think, revealed to us right away, I want to grow with you. There's a part of me that hasn't healed yet because I didn't know that I needed you to do that, to experience the goodness that could be here and the growth that's required for that.
So, really quickly, everybody watching, I just want to share with everyone real quick. You got to check out Matt's book, All for Love, and you got to check out Joy's book, Queuing Up Magic. Did I say that properly? Queuing Up Magic. Okay. By the way, there's links below to get a copy of their books. So just definitely check out their books. The reason why I'm mentioning these books is because I'm going to talk about another book related to dating and what prior to preparing for our interview made me think of your relationship. So everybody, if you've ever heard me talk about the book, If the Buddha Dated, and why I bring up this book frequently is because to me, dating relationships today seem transactional, and it seems very gender oriented. And what I mean to say is men are supposed to do X, women are supposed to do Y. And there's almost this contrived expectation of a relationship. In the Buddha Dated, it's more about how to show up from your heart. That's to me the essence of the core message in the book is how to show up in the dating process from your heart. So the two of you met, you instantly hit it off. And by the way, for the record, if anyone doesn't know this by now, Joy and Matt are engaged.
Yes.
Can you kind of give us those first 90, from the point you met to the point you got engaged? Kind of what happened in the dating realm, because I suspect for the two of you, it was from the heart.
You know, the way I describe it is that when Joy and I met, spontaneously, we both showed each other our connection to spirit. We both showed each other our connection to God as our most intimate way of reflecting ourselves to each other. So we met in a heart-centered connection. And it wasn't until we had, you know, when I had made the decision, we both made the decision of, you know, I'm ready to not only lean into this as I was informed, you know, as I agreed to lean into what had occurred, and we were ready to be responsible to embrace our relationship. That's when things, you know, escalated and deepened. But we met in a heart-centered connection. And just to kind of go back to something we were saying about transactional relationships,
Sure.
I think one way we can define how people create transactional relationships is that there's a way that the ego perceives attraction, and there's a way that the heart perceives attraction. And maybe this parallels to the book you're talking about. Yeah. So when the ego doesn't know if this is a true connection, it will lean in and engage in physical intimacy to see if there's more to the connection. If it's a heart-centered connection, we don't engage in physical intimacy until we know it's that deep. Yeah. So for example, someone's coming from their ego, they'll say, well, I don't know if this is really the relationship I'm looking for. So let me do all of the intimate things I would do if it were the intimate connection. And then when it isn't the intimate connection, I risk pulling the rug from underneath someone's feet. I risk hurting someone. Some people can call the other person turning psycho, because when we're intimate, when we're physically intimate, we are connecting on a very intimate level. And so, for example, when I'm intimate with my beloved, I'm literally saying to her, I'm giving you a sneak preview of the type of husband I would be to you. And if I didn't feel that this connection had that type of connection, I actually wouldn't have leaned in. I would have just gotten to know her as a friend. So I think the really interesting thing is, whether we're watching reality TV or we're dating, a lot of people, when they're coming from their ego, say, lean into the intimacy to see if there's something there. But the heart says, let me connect heart to heart. Let's just get to know each other as people. And if there's something deeper there, then we become intimate. So I think that's really the difference between how we create the potential for intimate connection versus transactional.
Yeah.
Well, you said something earlier that kind of piggybacks this. You were aware that your energy, or really your intent, was coming from an, I'm going to use the word, you didn't say this, I believe this word you implied. It came from an honorable place, not from a selfish, what can I get, but really honoring Joy. I mean, particularly as men, because look at, instinctually, we're driven by our penises. I mean, let's own it. You know, it's true. At the same time, we can control it if we choose to, you know. And from what I'm gathering from what you just shared, it's really more coming from an honorable place. And the two of you had real conversations in the beginning. You didn't have surface conversations. Am I right? You know, it wasn't about how's your day going. It's really, what are you looking for in a relationship? What, you know, I'm kind of gathering what I think you've experienced in those early, you had deeper, meaningful conversations. Is that right?
I think absolutely. From the moment we met, we began dating. We began the dating process. We started sharing. I wanted to know who he was. I wanted to know all about Matt, and he wanted to know all about Joy. And so we started asking each other questions and sharing our mutual interest. And I think that was the key. I would say interest in each other. and that drive to ask those questions and connect more deeply. It was less about what do you want in relationship.
Right.
It was more because I think we both sensed that we would build the relationship together how we wanted that. But did I know this man? I wanted to know everything about him.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing to point out, is that it wasn't Joy and I both sitting there going, are you the criteria of my checklist? Am I the criteria for checklist? It was literally two people saying, I want to know you on the most intimate level. We're sitting at this breakfast thing for this event we were speaking at. Her best friend was sitting between us in the crossfire, watching this going, what is happening? And the entire room disappears.
Yeah.
And I'm not thinking about, does she check boxes? Not that I actually operate like that, because I really don't. But it was literally just, here is a frequency of a woman that I have never known before. And I want, and what's interesting too, sometimes you hear people say, oh, it's like you met and you go, oh, I've known you in a different past life. My experience wasn't like that. My experience was, I want to know everything about this person. And she wants to know everything about me. And we are just in this getting to know process. And so we started already in that heart-to-heart connection. The spark was there the moment we met. And there was no lists. It was just, I want to know her. She wants to know me. And the world disappeared at breakfast.
But if there was a list, as you discover, as you're with somebody, we discovered that had there been a list, it was all boxes checked.
Oh my God,
all boxes.
She is the list.
Well, I mean, well, to some degree, I mean, and again, I'm an advocate for discernment. I mean, that's my whole coaching practice, is all about finding out if we're really on the same page. And how we do that is by asking questions. So, and I'm a big proponent of this. Some people think that's interviewing. I think that's being curious. And what the two of you have described is two curious people approaching the process from a very healthy way, even though for most people, this is going to sound, like I said, woo woo, and, could be, potentially riddled with disaster, like the twin flame conversation we had earlier. So, okay, I want to now share something personal with everybody, because that relates to both Joy and Matt. So for those of you who don't know, I actually met Joy about 6 years ago at a convention. It happened to be a convention of a woman entrepreneur giving other women entrepreneurs advice. And I happened to be invited by a friend of mine. So there was like 200 women, 10 men. By the way, for any men watching this, if you really want to go to a place to meet women, go where there's a rich environment of women. So I'm sitting at a table, and we were required to do an assignment, and we had to pick someone. And I reached over to Joy, said, because we were sitting at the same table, said, would you like to do this assignment together? And we began chatting during this assignment. And I believe a half hour went by. And I wrote on a piece of paper, I said, I like you. You remember that, Joy, right?
I do.
Okay. By the way, I still have it. It's in my office. I have that piece of paper. Why I'm sharing this wasn't a romantic connection. There was just an interesting affinity between the two of us. And we began hanging out the entire time of the convention, and nothing romantic really evolved from this experience. It was just more, I felt like our souls recognized each other. It wasn't meant to go down a romantic journey. It was meant to be a friendship. And I really cherish that between the two of us, Joy. I mean, I treasure our friendship, because you've been such a big influence in my life, and you supported me during a time where I was going through a lot of emotional turmoil. And I bring this up because, folks, Matt and Joy represent what I think are two emotional grown-ups. Okay. And when emotional grown-ups meet each other, and by the way, I wasn't an emotional grown-up when I met you, Joy. That's why it didn't work out. I was going through my evolution, just like Matt, before you met Joy, you shared you were going through your evolution. I wrote something down on a piece of paper. I said, timing is the moment you've evolved from a different evolution. That's where timing is. It's you just evolved from an evolution you went through. Okay, I'm babbling here for a moment, so everyone stick with me. So Joy and I are friends. She meets Matt. She mentions it. And by the way, Joy, you knew Matt professionally. And I followed Matt professionally. I've been watching your videos for years, Matt. I just think you're a brilliant individual that has a lot of wisdom to share. Okay, fast forward. I'm taking a long time to share this story, so please don't leave yet, everyone. Joy reaches out to me. She said, I'm in a relationship. It's with Matt Kahn. I'm like, oh, great. I love him, everything. And you've been dating for a while. And you said, I'd like to introduce you to him on the phone or on a Zoom call. So the three of us got together on a Zoom call. And within, I think it was the first 3 or 4 minutes, Matt says, well, do you want to share what you said?
Well, so you had said where you live, and it was near where I grew up, and I'm as we're on the Zoom call, and for all intents and purposes, I'm meeting Joy's great friend Jonathan, who's a dating coach, and so great to meet you, right? I'm meeting all of Joy's friends, she's meeting all of my friends, and I start and what's interesting is as I'm looking at your face, and I'm watching your speech patterning, and I'm watching all these little things, and I'm just what is curious about this? Then I looked at you and I said, hey, Jonathan, I think 18 years ago, I was your personal trainer and I helped you get ready for your high school reunion. Because I used to be a personal trainer in Southern California. And back in that day, you were getting ready for a high school reunion and I was your personal trainer. And this is when I would give people intuitive advice without knowing I'm even giving advice. And I was just a trainer. I was contemplating competing in bodybuilding at that time, many moons ago. When we stopped training, I went off on my spiritual journey. You went on your journey. And then we meet up again. And I'm just thinking I'm meeting Joy's friend. And I'm like, and life is bonkers.
Well, you know why I'm sharing this with everyone? Because coming back to divine connections, soul connections, partnerships, you know, it doesn't have to always necessarily mean romantic. I think there was an interesting affinity when I met you, Matt, that and you trained both both me and my now ex-wife, and we really appreciated your kindness, your care. I mean, I'm not surprised to see the evolution of who you've become from the man I met 18, 20 years ago. So, but at the same time, I'm bringing this up because people come into our lives for a real, I believe, for a special reason. And I don't mean specialness in the Course of Miracles way of specialness. I mean, some people can have a profound effect. Some people can have, a minor effect that can set the trajectory of your life. And the two of you, for me personally, have been that for me. You've been people that have really helped me grow as a person. And so coming back to dating and relationships, oftentimes people look at their past experiences as a failure, as a block to love. And I know the two of you subscribe to something different, and I'd like to lean into this for a few minutes chatting about every experience before you meet every experience is leading you to this divine partnership. I mean, do you agree or disagree with this? I'm just curious.
I wholeheartely agree. I think everyone is part of your pathway in some way, shape, or form. And whether that's, people will think of that as woo-woo. I think there's some sort of divine orchestration that's happening. And in that orchestration, we meet people who have important parts of in our journey, and you played an important part, still do, as my friend. And I recognize that soul connection was there when we met, and I care deeply for you. You're like a brother, a good friend.
Yeah.
You're right. And you've helped me on my journey become who I am today, to be here with Matt. So I would absolutely agree.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And I think that when people get into connection in a transactional way, when they get intimate before they are connected and aligned on a heart level, and then when it becomes tumultuous and it falls apart, if you've defined the X as a character who's, villainous, or, oh, they did this to me or this happened between us, it could be hard for someone's ego to say, how can this person who I experienced such suffering and hardship with also play a positive role in what's meant to be? And the truth is, everything in our lives, from every partnership, whether our families, whether a current partner, a co-parent, an ex, the teacher that was mean when you were in grade school, every person in our life, you play this in my life, we all play the role of helping to refine and polish our highest potential. And we are either attracting people who are helping to amplify the shine of that polish in preparation for those we're meant to connect with in the deepest level, or helping us to heal what needs to be healed to make space for that type of connection. So, I could look at my life, and I think Joy can probably say the same thing. And I can say every single person in my life, every interaction, every experience prepared me for the moment that she and I met. And I'm grateful for all of the wisdom I've received. I'm grateful for all the pain I've gone through. I'm grateful for all of the disappointments and unrequited expectations, because it made me into exactly who I needed to be with Joy, and vice versa. So I think for both of us, and I don't think it's woo-woo to say it, we're just two grateful, in love beings who are rooted in the maturity of growth, change, and being willing to take this journey together. And it's again, truly, truly grateful.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole for a moment. Okay. And then I'm actually going to have you coach. I'm going to have the two of you coach me at the end of this broadcast. Okay. So, but I want to go down a rabbit hole. So you guys sound so perfect. I'm getting a cavity listening to this. It's so sweet. I'm being tongue in cheek, everyone. All right. So look, relationships aren't perfect. Okay. Yeah. But the way you two sound, it sounds perfect. Okay. So if you're open to sharing, have you guys had any conflict? Is there any differences? I mean, how have you overcome them? I mean, let's get real for a moment. It isn't perfect, is it?
How would you say that?
I think I would answer that from the perspective of what people's expectations of perfection are. Because I would say it's not perfect in the realm of every single thing is like, this red carpet was rolled out for us and every aspect of our life is exactly the way that we want. We have plumbing issues. We have, we're navigating. I have children, Matt doesn't. There are all these aspects that we have come together to share and learn from each other. But again, it's the focus on growth. So for us, that's not about it being imperfect. It's actually divinely perfect. And we've chosen to grow together in whatever life brings through our experience. So I think it's really about perception of the individual coming into the relationship. We happen to share that. Yeah.
100%. I think that the way I would word this, and I feel like it's mutual for both of us, and again, you can let me know, that as a man, I'm not in a relationship with this idea of here's what I want from Joy, or here are the experiences we can have every day to make it better than anything I've had in the past. What Joy and I have is whether we wake up and we're integrated from an upgrade we go through, because we both go through energetic stuff and we go through it together. Whether we're both downloading or we both feel like we've been reborn, or maybe Joy woke up and is dealing with a headache.
Okay.
There isn't a sense of, oh, that's in the way of what I want from her, and how long am I going to put up with this until I'm paid back? And that's a transactional language.
Yeah.
What we have is when she's at her best,
Okay.
when she's less than her best, I desire showing up for her, not waiting for her to fulfill me with certain ways or activities. I'm madly in love with showing up for this woman. And I believe, and you can confirm this, that she equally is madly in love with showing up for me. So our passion isn't you do this and I do this, and we're both going to be happy campers. Just that's how it usually is. We are both madly in love with showing up for each other. And I think most people's experience is, I'm only willing to show up for someone that first shows up for me. Yeah. And what we have is an ability to show up for each other. We don't step back and wait for the other one to show up first. I literally am in love with showing up for this woman, and the version of me I get to experience by showing up for her. And I get to experience her being her highest self, showing up for me. And that's the passion that we get to bask in every single day.
Every day.
Oh, fuck. I'm jealous, you two. Obviously, I don't hold back. So, everyone, I want to share a conversation I had with Joy some months ago. I think it was after not only that you met, but got engaged. You said something that really struck me, and I want to piggyback on what Matt just shared as well. You said, and I'm paraphrasing this, but your relationship is based on three things: connection with the divine, meaning and for everyone, the way I interpret this is each of you has a connection with something beyond yourself. It's connection to your spiritual self, whether we call it God, universe, spirit. I call it Gus. God, universe, spirit, get it?
Like that. Gus.
And by the way, I didn't coin that. Someone else taught me that. You two are devoted to growth. And what I believe that what you said was, we're both devoted to our individual growth and also the growth of our relationship. And you also said we're devoted to each other. Yeah. And what Matt, you just shared, that we show up for each other.
That's right.
When I hear those words, and I really think about the very first date people go on in the world that I'm involved in, the I don't mean individually transactional world, but the world of dating and relationship, where I speak to. There's a big difference between meeting someone and saying, what can I get?
Yeah.
Versus what can I give?
Yeah.
Like there, and I would like for both of you to spend a minute on that, because to me, this saddens me so much, because the realm I'm coaching in is the transactional realm, and it's what can I get instead of what can I give.
Well, and to touch upon that in an indirect way,
okay,
what was it that put me in the position, that puts me in a position as a man to have the mindset, to have the ethics to say, what can I give versus what can I get? Because a lot of people will hear this and they'll think it's something you have to, it's a pretend, it's a put on, I have to pretend to be
good
that
point,
man,
good point.
Right.
Good point.
And I'm actually literally that man who literally thinks, what can I give versus what can I get? So the question is, how did I get there in my life? And I mean, I can say a lot of things, but what I would say is, before Joy and I met, I was in a monogamous relationship with my beloved. I was single. Yeah. I was not dating. I do not date. I would only go on a date with someone that I had some sense was going to go into a serious relationship and marriage. I was only interested in courtship. And so I'm not someone who casually dates. I am someone only interested, because the things that I would do in an interpersonal way on a date are things that I would do with my wife. And why would I do things with a woman who I don't know yet is going to be my wife? Why would I put her in wife position if that's not where our connection is? Now, that's not nice to put someone in a position, and that's not healthy for me. So for me, what allows me as a man to focus on naturally without even effort, what can I give versus what can I get, is because I was already in a fully committed monogamous relationship with my beloved. She just hadn't revealed herself to me. And so then as we met and started to get to know each other, the person stepped into the relationship I was actually already in, which is different than let's just date around, which is there's no problem with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're going to date around like that, it's very difficult for this type of relationship and frequency to enter your reality. So I was already husband. I didn't know who my wife was. And so if I'm already husband and she was already wife when she didn't know that I was going to be the one, then when we meet, we're already in the ethical value of what can I give versus what can I get. And I believe that's really such an important piece that we have to, as beings, even if you're single, whether you're using dating apps or not, if you're in a monogamous relationship with your partner before they've even entered your reality, your senses, your intuition are going to be able to say no to that person, and not like, let me see how close we can get. Well, they have one check, not five, or well, they're nothing close to what I want, but hey, life's too short. What the hell? Instead, she and I were both in an intimate monogamous relationship with each other. We just didn't know who each other were. And so when we met, it all clicked so easily.
I would love to share something around that, because I think that this is something we've talked about. And before we met, I was, we dated people before we met. But the moment I knew, because we were committed to being in a monogamous relationship with our beloved, we approached dating and relationships differently. We were looking for the one. And when it wasn't the one, it was actually quite easy for me to say, you know what, I need to end this relationship. You know, I wasn't abrupt, like, hey, you're not the one, you know, like, sorry. But there was this sense. And I knew this person isn't the one. I didn't know it was Matt. But so then when I met Matt, it was so easy for me to be clear.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I want to piggyback on something on both on a personal level, and I want to take the balance of the interview to a personal thing. So I interviewed Rabbi Manis Friedman 6 months ago. Do you follow him on YouTube? Do either one of you have seen him on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm familiar with him.
Okay. So, but he said something interesting in one of his videos, is why I interviewed him. He says, you have to want to be a husband. Like, I mean, he was specifically talking to men. You have to want to be a husband, not looking for a wife. You have to want to be a husband. And what I'm hearing from you, Matt, in particular, and you as well, Joy, is you'd already resigned yourself. I want to be a husband. And by the way, husband can mean a variety of different things. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be a legal contract with the government per se, but it also can be that as well. But you'd already made up, you were in a space where you wanted to be a husband. Why I'm talking about this is in the conventional world that we're living in, this transactional world, a lot of men don't operate that way. I mean, that you had to reach a level within yourself to say that. Am I right? I mean, you had to really go through your evolution. Why I'm bringing this up is, folks, I recognize this within myself. I'm in that space in my life. And if I look back at all the experiences I had before this, I know the difference of what that feels like to say I want to be a husband instead I'm looking for a wife. Okay, so with that said, I want you two to spend the balance of this conversation coaching me.
Oh boy, this is serious.
You're coaches. So I want you to coach me right now for the next 5 minutes.
All right. So you want to start or what?
Well, I think I think always in conversation when we're thinking about where we want to be is what do you want, right? So I think you opened it up where you want a relationship, but
Yes.
do you want to be a husband, and what are your intentions for a relationship in general? Like, I think that's always the most important piece.
Yeah. Well, I'm very clear. I want a fully committed relationship that leads to either moving in together, or getting married. And I certainly, I've reached a place of where, oops, let me bring me back to the conversation. I've reached a mindset where I'm capable. I want to use the words, I'm capable and ready to go all in. Like, I might have had a desire in the past to go all in, but it was a desire, not a capability. I think there's a big difference. You could desire something, but you may not be physically ready for it. But I feel like I'm ready to go all in with someone, to be a husband, and really grow with another person, both as an individual and as myself. I do recognize a connection with the divine is really important for me. I didn't realize that before in my previous relationship, how important that is. And also that space of being devoted to each other. Like, I know that I'm ready for all three of these pieces, if you will. All right. So I just said that out loud. Any thoughts?
2 questions, just
Okay.
for contemplation purposes.
Okay.
In order to have the kind of connection that you want,
Yeah.
right? Because when men get into connection and it's works on a romantic level, but that's the only place that's rooted, when there's a conflict, it's either going to be a son-mother archetype or it's going to be a sister-brother kind of thing. And so a lot of people try to focus on the intimacy because that's where it really works. So in order to have a connection where you're intimate on every level, 2 questions.
Okay.
One is, are you willing to listen more than you share? And are you willing to fulfill their needs or a need of theirs before asking for one of your needs to be met? That's husband territory.
Well, that's great.
Got it. So, well, I'm an inquisitive person. So to some degree, I ask a lot of questions because I like to listen, so
Right.
I can hold space listening. It's what I do professionally. I think one of my hangups has been, I'll be candid with you, is I haven't felt that equal curiosity from the other side.
Right.
And so I want to say that's a need. I need to feel seen. I need to feel, I need someone to want to be curious about me, because I'm ultra curious. I'm like, in fact, I'm almost to the point of it ad nauseum curious, but I will hold space for their curiosity. So I think from that regard, I'm there. What was the second piece, Matt?
Well, I would add on a second question to that. Second question was, are you willing to fulfill one of their needs before you ask for one of your needs being met? But I would say with the curiosity question,
okay,
when I tune in intuitively, what I feel like might be a building block that can help you is that you're curious to get to know someone. You're also desiring them to be curious in you.
Yes.
But sometimes when we get to know people, there are obviously moments when the curiosity is us going back and forth sharing. And then there are moments when we're actually being still together. That intimacy isn't always I'm sharing or Joy sharing. It's a willingness to be silent and still together. And so sometimes if you're with someone and they may not be asking you the kind of exciting questions you're asking them, it might be perceived as a lack of interest. And maybe this person is just trying to get to know what your frequency feels like in a non-verbal setting. And so when you're getting to know someone, the question is this someone I'm interested in being still with? If they're not engaging my ego and my ego's not being engaged by their interest in me, am I still interested in leaning in even if there's no mind being stimulated?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to, on that note, I'm going to sit with that for a bit because I really want to process that and sit with that, on my own. You know what? This conversation about divine partnerships is really a joy for me, to use your name, Joy, but it's been a real pleasure for me. I'm really grateful that the two of you came on. I'm so excited about your relationship together. I'm excited to witness how the two of you unfold as the months move on in both your relationship, but also in your professional capacity. Everyone, I want to remind everyone of Joy's book, let me just put me on the screen for a second. Queuing Up, and Matt's book, All for Love, if you can see that. There's going to be links below to get a copy of both their books. I highly recommend it. You two, let me bring me back. Up. Thanks for allowing me to talk to you guys. I'm so happy for you both.
We love you, Jonathan. Thank you so much. And thanks for playing such a pivotal role in both of our lives. We love you so much.
Thank you.
Likewise. So I'm going to reach into the camera and give you both a big, gigantic Jonathan Bear hug. And I look forward to talking to you guys real soon. Everyone, I hope you found value in our interview talking about divine partnerships. There'll be links below to check out Matt's work, to check out Joy's work as well. There'll be links below for all that. So everyone, let's all go say goodbye.